The story starts at a wedding. Connie and Clifford exchanged vows, promising to stay together in sickness and health. After the ceremony, Connie changed out of her dress, while her sister Hilda expressed worries, suggesting that Connie could have kept things more casual with Clifford, who might have preferred that. With Clifford leaving for battle the next day, Connie wished for something special to happen between them. Fearing she would regret not doing so, Connie and Hilda went downstairs, where Connie and Clifford shared a joyful dance after the wedding. The following day, Connie said goodbye to Clifford. He encouraged her to stay strong and not to make a fuss. He then left for a brutal battle. When he returned, he faced a tragic fate. Both of his legs were paralyzed, and he relied on a wheelchair. Connie wrote letters to her sister whenever she could. They eventually reached Ragby, where they noted that the house needed a lot of work and that they should rehire the previous staff. Connie and Clifford worked hard to improve their home, which kept Connie too busy to write to her sister. With the full staff helping to renovate the house, Clifford insisted that Connie assist him directly. His health seemed to get better each day, and he even talked about returning to writing novels, asking Connie to be his editor. She happily agreed and also offered to proofread and type for him. Later that night, Connie tried to share an intimate moment with Clifford, but it was cut short when he interrupted, saying he couldn't go through with it. He felt bad and apologized. Connie wrote to her sister about their situation. Still, she felt lonely, missing her sister and her vibrant life in London. They sometimes hosted parties with Clifford's bachelor friends and welcomed visits from writers who offered advice. Connie's old friends began to pull away because of Clifford's bad luck. Feeling lonely, Connie asked her sister if she could come over for a visit. Since her sister had to stay in London, Connie thought about going to see her there. When Connie shared this plan with Clifford, he was upset. He said she would be leaving him alone in the house, even though she reminded him that there were servants to help. Clifford insisted that he wanted her there with him. He then suggested that her sister, Hilda, could come to visit them instead. Feeling let down by Clifford's reaction, Connie decided to take a walk. She wandered into the woods, found a stream, and even spotted a man with his dog. Later, while taking care of Clifford, Connie told him about her adventure in the woods and invited him to join her next time. He was unsure but wanted to make her happy, so he agreed. Clifford then asked if she felt burdened by helping him and confessed that sometimes he wished he hadn't survived the war. Connie told him to never think that way again, and they shared a comforting moment. Clifford suggested to visit the May Day fair happening that day. At the fair, Connie was greeted warmly by people who showed her kindness. A woman with a child greeted her. She was a teacher in the village. Connie noticed several men walking by, protesting. Curious, she asked the woman about it and learned they were miners protesting. The woman invited Connie to visit her in Merhay, noting that they were both outsiders in the village. Clifford then asked Connie if they could go somewhere. When she inquired about the destination, he reminded her that she had wanted him to join her on her walks, so they would do just that. He asked her to wait patiently, as he had a place he wanted to show her. They struggled a bit with the wheelchair, so they requested help from Mellors, the gatekeeper. At the location, Clifford reminisced about spending time there as a child, calling it one of the best views in Midland. He shared his desire to have a child there, and Connie expressed regret over their inability to conceive. Clifford suggested she have a child with another man, insisting it should be purely transactional, without emotions. He compared it to a dentist visit, preferring not to know the details. Connie was shocked and asked if he was serious, explaining that she couldn't do that because she married him. He told her an heir would be good for the people as well as for her, to fill her days. She felt confused and uneasy about how easily her husband accepted this idea. Clifford was reading the newspaper and found a negative review of his book, expressing his feelings about life. He mentioned accepting the emptiness of existence. Disappointed by his words, Connie went upstairs and cut down the pictures hanging on the wall. Finally, Hilda, Connie's sister, arrived at their home, worried about Connie's well-being. She noticed Connie looked pale and asked who had been caring for her while she looked after Clifford. Connie admitted she was feeling worn out. Hilda then approached Clifford to discuss some necessary arrangements for Connie's care. She insisted that he hire someone to help him for the time being. Hilda recommended a woman who had previously been his caregiver when he was younger, assuring him that Connie wouldn't have to bear that responsibility anymore. After making the arrangements, Hilda returned home, and Connie decided to take a walk. Clifford asked her to stop by the gatekeeper's place to check if the new pheasants had started laying eggs. When Connie arrived at the gatekeeper's cottage, she found him in the shower. She smiled and waited for him to finish before knocking on his door. He was surprised to see her and invited her inside. Connie explained her visit. As she looked around his small cottage, she admired his living space and the books he owned. He offered her some flowers from his garden, and she left with them. Next, she visited the school teacher's house, whom she had met at the fair. There, she learned some truths about the gatekeeper and his wife, who had been unfaithful to him while he was away at war, leaving him to live alone. One day, while on her usual walk, Connie heard hammering. It was the gatekeeper working in a hut, making new coop for the chicks. She liked the hut and asked if she could have the key, so she could come and read there sometimes. As time passed, she began visiting the hut regularly, making it her secret retreat. Only she and the gatekeeper went there. They continued to host gatherings with writers that Clifford knew, and after a disagreement and conversation with Clifford, Connie sought solace in the hut. When she arrived, only the gatekeeper and the newly hatched chicks were there. She wanted to hold one of the chicks, but was worried they might peck her. Noticing her hesitation, the gatekeeper approached her, took her hands gently, and helped her hold one of the chicks. At first, she felt joy, but then panic set in. The gatekeeper tried to soothe her, but she unexpectedly hugged him. She moved closer, and he cautiously responded. Soon, they found themselves entwined, making love. Afterward, Connie and the gatekeeper left in an awkward silence. When she got home, she realized Clifford hadn't even noticed she was gone. The next day, Connie waited for the gatekeeper at the hut. He warned her that people might start to gossip about her frequent visits and judge her for being with her husband's gatekeeper. She asked if he was afraid, and he admitted he was, but not for himself. He feared she would regret their relationship. Before he could finish, Connie leaned in and kissed him passionately, saying they needed to be quick because she was short on time. He fulfilled her desires, and she hurried away. He called after her, inviting her to visit his cottage the next day. Later, while visiting a friend who was a school teacher, she unexpectedly encountered the gatekeeper and chose to ignore him. He followed her, questioning why she was avoiding him and not visiting his cottage. She replied that she had no time. They then found a secluded spot in the woods and made love passionately. She told him he was unlike any man she had known, and he agreed. As they spent more time together, their bond deepened. At home, she began to notice signs that she might be pregnant. Clifford's caregiver was informed by Connie that there might be a potential heir, but she asked her to keep it a secret. However, the caregiver couldn't resist and shared the news with her colleagues. Soon, the rumor reached Clifford when one of his men inquired if the speculation about a new heir was true. Clifford then asked Connie if she had heard the gossip. She replied that she was going to Venice with her sister and father, hoping to meet someone there. Connie visited the gatekeeper to inform him about her trip to Venice and about Clifford's plan for an heir. The gatekeeper felt that Connie was using him for this purpose. Later, Connie returned to clarify everything, expressing her feelings for him and promising to support him. They spent time together in his cottage during the rain, but on her way home, Clifford's caregiver spotted her. After a night at the cottage, Connie departed, but people noticed her leaving. Villagers later found Connie's book in the cottage, sparking rumors about her and the gatekeeper. By then, Connie had already gone to London to meet her sister for the Venice trip. However, Clifford's caregiver reached out to inform her of the situation, prompting her to return and resolve things. Clifford summoned the gatekeeper and ordered him to leave the property due to the rumors. Connie arrived in the village to say goodbye to the gatekeeper, promising they would reconnect when he was in a better situation. Connie then rushed to Clifford's house and asked for a divorce. While acknowledging the rumors, he agreed to let her go, but insisted he would never divorce her. As she left, she instructed the caregiver to ask her colleagues if they knew where the gatekeeper might be. The woman felt a deep connection to her story, recognizing it as a true love tale. While in Venice, she spent her days worrying about her pregnancy, but finally received good news. A letter from the gatekeeper invited her to live with him, mentioning that he had a house and a steady income, and he was ready to support her and the baby. Without hesitation, she set off to find him. The film concludes with a touching moment as she reunites with her lover, the gatekeeper, who surprises her with a warm embrace from behind.